Hello everyone and welcome to a very special episode of Green Supply Chain Insights. This episode marks our 1-year anniversary of the series, and with that intention we're flipping a little bit the script. Since we began Green Supply Chain Insights, we did so with the intention to communicate industrial decarbonization and the energy transition in a more pragmatic, approachable and understandable way. And I think we've managed to do that, exploring numerous themes from regulation to innovation to real industrial applications on how the supply chains are becoming more transparent, more sustainable, and more efficient in terms of sustainability, but also in terms of competitiveness. For this episode, as I said, and as you can already see for the setup, we're changing things a little bit. Instead of me hosting solo, I'm bringing in one of my colleagues who's been behind every episode of Green Supply Chain Insights, making this whole thing happen. And today, to make the conversation a little bit more special for our 1-year anniversary, we're going to turn this into a bit of an interview and a conversation of what this past year has been, but most importantly, what the next episodes are going to bring us. With that, I want to welcome Flavia. Flavia, thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to Green Supply Chain Insights in front of the screen for the first time.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for the introduction, Juan. Yeah, being this whole year behind the scenes is nice to host this interview with you. So yeah, thank you. And congratulations for your to hit this 12 number of interviews of episode 12. So I think this is a milestone for us, right? And of course, I couldn't start this interview asking what was the inspiration behind this series, and if that vision changed or maybe evolved along the way?
Yeah. I mean, I think the short answer on the inspiration is basically you, I think. But certainly, again, what we wanted to do was to basically raise our voices a little bit more on some of the important trends on industrial decarbonization, on sustainable supply chains, on the whole scheme of green supply chains in industrial manufacturing, and make all of that technical jargon or complex concepts, make it more simple to understand, especially with the kind of growing wave of regulations to turn it into something that, well, okay, within everything that's happening in the EU Green Deal, what are the kind of 5 key elements that I should be focused on, right? Well, given the industry that I operate in or given the role that I have. And that's been the approach since we started, right? To break down really complex messages in a short 10 to 12 minute video where we can explain that in a very succinct way, right? I think that's been the inspiration. My mindset has certainly evolved, right? So we were doing this at the beginning, perhaps in a more plain way of we're just going to explain the concept and that's it, and be more neutral. Whereas I think in the latest episodes, we've started to be a little bit more opinionated, perhaps, and bring in more of my personal take on each one of those either concepts or trends that we're discussing.
Yeah, I can see that, because at the beginning we were more focused on bringing more data, and now we are giving more opinion and really market insights and our experience, and bringing this conversation to the table, to conference halls, to board meetings. And I think this is a huge change and can be helpful for our audience, right? So you mentioned that we have been focused on the competitiveness and of course sustainability related to that. We know that businesses are struggling, and we can see now the industrial deal, and we have the Green Deal as well. So can you talk about if it's going to be a substitute or it's going to be complement?
Yeah, I think the first key message is that competitiveness and sustainability are not a zero-sum game, right? So for some reason, we've entered into these discussions where, actually, in order to have a competitive European industrial ecosystem, we need to forget or slow down on sustainability, right? And that's definitely not the case. And I think that narrative is quite dangerous. Because if anything, what's going to make European industry survive is that shift into sustainability, into circularity, that acceleration towards net zero industrial landscapes, right? So when it comes to the interplay between the EU Green Deal and the upcoming Clean Industry Deal, I think it's a difficult balance, right? Because it's basically seeing the European Commission and European regulator in general kind of play that role of, okay, I need to maintain my path towards that long-term goal of sustainability and net zero emissions, while at the same time addressing some very serious short-term issues and short-term goals, right? But while I think it's certainly complex, I think sustainability and circularity are very much at the core of it, right? And the fact that we have industries that have already embraced sustainability, that have already embraced circularity, that we have some of the most advanced technologies when it comes to things like sustainable fuels, low carbon chemicals, like all of these are things that we need to make sure that, again, we continue to power innovation in that space. Powering innovation is going to help us grow our industrial landscape. And we are powering innovation in a sustainable way. So ultimately, it all kind of gets linked together. So I don't see the Clean Industry Deal as a replacement, but rather as a complement to what we've already been doing with the EU Green Deal.
Yeah, and I think this is a powerful message because, and of course, difficult though to go ahead. But as you mentioned, there's already technology available. There's already company doing that. So I think this can bring my next questions. Can you give us some example that companies that are early adopters, or maybe the leaders that are moving ahead from sustainability without lost their competitiveness, maybe some use case, and of course, the journey that Finboot helped them through this sustainability path and what we have learned?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's certainly early adopters and there's multiple examples, as you say, of people who have embraced sustainability. We've talked extensively, I think not so much in Green Supply Chain Insights, but through Finboot content as a whole, on the work we've done with the likes of Repsol, global multi-energy provider, who's been working with us for over 8 years now. SABIC, as one of the largest chemical manufacturers in the world, also a strategic partner to Finboot and a long-term customer. I think one of the kind of greatest examples, also because of the messaging and the timing of it, is the work that we've done with MOEVE so far. So as MOEVE kind of rolled out their own rebranding from
Formerly CEPSA, right?
Exactly, going from CEPSA to MOEVE. And that whole concept also pushing, saying, well, we're actually now moving fully into clean energies, fully into sustainable fuels. That made what we do in terms of digital traceability for low carbon, renewable, and circular products, it made it more than we're just a supplier of a software to them. We're a strategic partner for that journey, right? So that was certainly kind of a breakthrough moment for us, right? To see that action from one of our customers, it was certainly helpful. And then you have essentially a challenge still on introducing these digital technologies, which is basically enabling the change management and embedding our solutions and our technology into their workflows, right? So that's a complex work. And I think where we really stand out is on helping the customer hand in hand to make sure that the ecosystem we're creating is very much bespoke to them.
Yeah, it adapts to their business,
and
right?
It adapts to their business, to their requirements, to their actual processes, right? And one of the great ways that we see results on this is, again, with customers like Evonik, for instance, in the specialty chemical space, is how we started working in one particular area within their high performance polymers. And then through their own initiative, through their own basically understanding of what we do, they started coming to us and saying, well, actually, if we're using this here, can we also use it for deforestation? Great. Can we also use it for digital product passports, right? And that expansion and that interest that comes directly from the client, I think that's one of the biggest, let's say, signs of success, I would say.
Yeah, we can help the client evolve as long the sustainability path is evolving as well. So
exactly.
We can adapt. That's great. You mentioned the DPP and you mentioned the EUDR. I would like to talk about it because some of their episodes, they are focused on regulatory framework. Yeah. And I think that we have a lot of to dive in into that. So, what are the regulations that you think that can bring more impact, especially this year or the next one for clients?
Yeah, I mean, for 2025, 2026, I think definitely EUDR is going to be the headline, just because of the timeline.
The clock is running.
The clock is ticking. December, you got to be ready. And some would say you should already be working towards being ready. And I think that's going to make kind of EUDR the focus, right? Also because it's one of the first examples that at scale is showing how Europe is trying to kind of, in a way, overreach. I'm not sure that's the word I want to use, but kind of overreach and make sure that their regulatory compliance also impacts businesses globally.
Yeah.
And that's one of the approaches they have to leveling the playing field, as we're kind of often hearing lately, right? So how are we going to help European industry? We're going to help them by leveling the playing field and by making sure that companies abroad also have to comply with our regulation, right? And I think that's example number one. And we're going to start seeing that roll out with things like ESPR and sustainable product design and regulations. We're going to see that in the carbon border adjustment mechanism. We're going to see it in the packaging and packaging waste regulation. So I think it's going to start expanding, but the first kind of real impact will be coming from EUDR, I think, from deforestation.
Yeah, and also I think it's nice to remember that the European Commission also brought to the table and listen to the companies, what they are saying about we need more time to comply. So it's not like you don't need to comply, but let's talk together and make it happen.
Yeah.
Right. So it's time. We don't need more words. We need some action. And I think the EUDR will be the first regulation that we are going to see this happening at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
Great. So I think we are getting ahead of at the end of this interview. I'm very happy to be here to do this recap. And of course, I want to know what's going next, what your personal vision for the next season of Insights.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first message is, and this is whether you're watching this episode for the first time or you've been following the series, is that we're not stopping, right? I think that's one good message that I would like to leave with, and that we do want to evolve it, right? We want to start kind of bringing in more of our clients' voices into these conversations, evolving that format as well, so we can learn more about kind of actionable implementations of some of those themes that we've introduced in, let's call it season 1, right?
Yep.
And just continue kind of deep diving and exploring and explaining and breaking down more industrial decarbonization, the energy transition, and the move towards greener supply chains.
Great. I think it's very excited, especially because we, behind the scenes, we are working to bring valuable and reliable source, and the technology behind the challenge that can really help business to thrive. So I think this second season will be great. So I give it back to you so we can conclude this episode.
Thank you, Flavia. And thank you everyone who's been watching, again, this episode, but also everything that we've been rolling out. Remember, we publish monthly episodes. They go out on YouTube and LinkedIn. And then we follow that with a LinkedIn article version in case that's more of your style, so you can consume content in many different forms coming from Green Supply Chain Insights. As I said, this is not stopping, right? One of the things that I would encourage you to do is, hey, let's engage more in conversation. So let's meet, maybe at an event, maybe in the comments section, but let's have a conversation about what you think of our series, what you've learned from it, and what you would like us to focus on more. Remember, monthly episodes out on YouTube and LinkedIn, and you can find all of the content on finboot.com/insights. See you next month.